Bonjour à tous. I see you still have a lot of energy after 3 days of pré-rentrée. That's good to see. Thank you very much. It's a pleasure for me to see you all here today, because as you know, we meet at the beginning of the year to give you a bit of context, to give you the guidance on administrative steps, on the spirit of the school. But then it really starts when we get together again, which is today, around a speaker. And the choice of the speaker for us is very meaningful. It's not anyone who happens to be free or anyone who happens to be around. We want to link that person, his or her life journey, experience, knowledge, to who we are and who we aim to be. If you've digged, for those who were here before, you will know, but if you've digged in the history, history of past speeches, you will know that we had last year Emmanuel Faber on impact, and that's something that counts a lot for us. We've had also before Lord Stern, who has written a seminal report for sustainability. And now, because we are the School of Management and Impact, but also, in dotted lines, School of Management and Innovation, and also because you probably have seen it by now, data, digital, AI is key to what we aim to bring you as a knowledge, know-how competencies. You have a sequence of courses that you have to follow. We will have Florent Bonaventure, your executive director, was mentioning it on Monday. You will have next year the possibility to have an engineer degree coming to the school. So we want to be serious about digital and about AI. I'll come back to Asma Mhalla. So if you have electricity or some connection to a network in France, I don't even need to introduce her because she's very famous, despite her young age, which is also a reason to be happy to have her around. But I just want to remind you of some of the words we used on Monday when we first got together about impact, about innovation, about the link between impact and innovation, and about what that implies for economics, for growth, for productivity, for well-being, for the common good, which are things you will have to deal with while you're with us. And if you speak about it, about innovation, AI, at the moment, and if you're an economist, and if you had to choose one name, one contributor to the thinking and to the mental space around it today, maybe you could have a go, but that's a bit impressionnant for you maybe to step up and give a name. There are probably many names in any case. But I'd like to quote Daron Acemoglu. Who of you knows Daron Acemoglu? Yeah? Okay. Couple, 3, 4. So at the end of the first semester, all of you will know about him in some sense. He's a professor, emeritus professor, I even think. No, still professor at MIT. And he's been writing about economic development, about industrial revolutions. He's half a historian. I look at Florent Bonaventure, so he's a historian. And he's look at why, his last book is about power and progress. And he looks through history about the link between technology and prosperity. And the question he asks is, why is it that, we push for technological progress? We like improvements in technology, we like disruptions through innovation, but this is better for the average, this is a fact, but it often is perceived and is factually the source of new inequalities. So he goes through history and he looks at why inequalities have risen at many different instances. Here I should give the floor to Monsieur Bonaventure, but the cotton industry in the US and all industrial revolutions. And one of the consequences he draws many consequences, but one of the consequences he draws is that there's a political dimension between the drive to technological improvements and the outcomes from technological improvements in terms of economics, the economic outcomes. It's different from impact. An outcome is really something that is an immediate effect on the lives of individuals. And he says, a lesson that can be drawn is that there's always a political element, and in particular, always a political element in the division of labor and in the division of, in the repartition of value added, what goes to labor and what goes to capital. And this is true every time. So you have this political dimension, which means for those of you who will follow the Masters in Human Resources and Governance, you will look a lot at labor relationships, at unions, those things. This dimension is key for the way it impacts individuals and societies as a whole. Another point he makes, I'm just introducing, because she will speak, I don't exactly know what she's going to say, but my intuition is that it's going to be related.
Exactly that.
Oh, sorry. Is that the second point he makes is that there's, and he doesn't really make it that way, but my take is that that's one sort of conclusion we can draw, is that this advent of inequalities comes from the fact that we view progress in a very narrow-minded way. And progress as automation of tasks. Basically, that's what has happened through time. We have more technology, more tools. The stock of capital becomes more complex, more complexly intricated with the labor input. And the way this happens is through automation. And automation means you have, again, all those instances where you could have the negotiation or fights between capital and labor for who gets what. And because you don't always have the same bargaining power, depending on all those specific circumstances, then you're bound to have outcomes that are leading to inequality. So that's the second thing that can be concluded. A third thing I would add is, there's so far those inequalities or those unequal consequences rather than inequalities have affected blue collars, low-skilled labor. Now, and that's the link I want to make with AI, the impact of a disruptive new technology that comes to the market, both as a fundamental sort of knowledge and research, but as a way to diffuser le progrès, that might well affect you at the first level. And that's why this lecture is really, really meaningful for you now, because what you'll hear today, you will have to think about it in the courses you choose to take and in the outcomes in the choices, the professional choices that will be yours. Luckily enough, I think in 2 years' time or 3 years' time, we might see a bit better who wins and who loses and what should be done. But this is something for us as a school that bothers you every day, because we cannot, throw you on a path which in 2 years' time brings you to a labor market where you have low salaries, no jobs because they don't exist anymore, etc. It's a big responsibility for us as well. To close on this technology and to come back to Daron Acemoglu, he published a paper recently that keeps economists busy on AI and productivity. And AI, I'll just say about the link between AI and productivity, but he says, well, there's a big hype about how productivity will be impacted by AI, how positively it will be impacted. And he's the one and only to say, hold on, be careful, maybe that's not going to be that, that of an improvement to productivity. Lots of consequences from an economic point of view, because if productivity doesn't go up, then growth doesn't go up. There's a lot of debt in the world that if you want it to be paid back, you need to have some economic activity. It's another subject, but that's a key element. So before giving the floor, saying a few words about Asma, but giving her the floor, on AI, and Monsieur Bonaventure warned you about not using AI just bluntly, because we've trained our professors and we've trained ourselves to see whether you work a bit yourself or you use your brain a bit, or just the AI tools that are so easily available. I'd say we love AI as a tool, but we want you to come to this school to have your own independent ability to think. And in order to have your own independent ability to think, you might use any productivity-enhancing tool that are available, but at some stage you still need to make the effort. So you'll have to make the effort, and that's in your interest and in ours, but that's something that's always moving. I was speaking with Olivier Blanchard, who is another well-known economist. He uses ChatGPT all the time, he says. And to do my literature reviews, I need only one research assistant instead of 3, etc., etc. So the gains are here, but you cannot say that Olivier Blanchard is sloppy or wrong or just doesn't know what he's talking about. So be proactive in the way you use your tools. Asma, should I introduce you? I mean, indeed, she's an expert on the link between power, political power, big tech, the impact on AI. She's an active researcher. She's very active also in the media, and that's important to bring some awareness and instructed awareness on AI, given the speed at which all those things evolve. So without further ado, as we say, I give her the floor, and please give her a warm applause from the stage.
Thank you so much, Natasha, for your words, for the introduction and the invitation. Bonsoir à tous. Good evening, everyone. It's a profound honor and a great, sincere pleasure to be here with you for your first day at school, or at uni, I should say. And this evening, I'm pretty moved because 7 years ago, I started here, but as a simple teacher. And they've been 7 years of joy and happiness. You know, this bliss of sharing knowledge, learning from each other, and me from my students, so in both directions. And today, 7 years later, we are here, excited, happy, Amphithéâtre Boutmy. But here's my question for you. Where do we stand in history? Here and now, it seems like we find ourselves stuck between two moments. Neither war nor peace. Neither human nor machine. A hybrid crossroads, I would say. Halfway from this somewhere we haven't built yet. And at the dawn of the new century, our era, those days, they are disturbing. It is, according to me, symbiotic between what is real and virtual, what is true and false, what is private and public, what is military and civilian. Our political categories and our perception of reality, they are moving, they are changing. This is what I call our hybrid times, our chance and our curse also maybe. So what meaning can we give to those hybrid times? This disordered, diluted, and yet profoundly tangible compression of space and time. And I'm sure you are all experiencing this within your inner selves, right? And this hybrid thing we can't describe, we can't exactly put a name on it. It is impossible, almost impossible, for our human cognition to grasp. So where do we stand and where are we heading to? A large part, not the only part, but a large part of the answer lies in a single word, technology. And the good news, I've been asked to share with you this evening some of my views, my analysis on what's going on here around this tech and AI so-called revolution or evolution, And actually, probably both. But first of all, guys and girls, are you afraid of AI? Raise your hand if you are. You are. That's because you're young. And do you have any clue, if you were in charge, for example, how to regulate it? Raise your hand if you have any clue. Okay, that's also because you're young. It's probably, the flip side of the coin. So before we dig into this subject, let me first tell you just a few words about my field of work. Natasha introduced it, but I call it technopolitics. It's, the starting point of my work was just to say that our political models are being disrupted and that we must avoid binary, simplistic understanding of these new emerging forms of power. Tech giants, but not GAFAM, not GAMAM, just tech giants, but also nation states, but also the whole global complex wildlife of cyberspace. They are all redefining our collective political reference points, what we call state, what we call sovereignty, what we call democracy. They are those concepts. They are questioned. In my work, I try to define these new structures of power, and I use technology, AI, tech giants, as a proxy, as this very narrow connecting point between ideological, political, and geopolitical issues. So where do we stand now? I don't know, and you don't know either. Our world is being reshaped in real time, and sometimes we have not enough time to figure this out. In this unpredictable future, you'll find tech giants and, of course, AI along the way, as actors or as systems. They are challenging public policies, but they are also driving a large part of the new geostrategic tensions between the US and China. In the new landscape of global affairs shaped by technology, sovereignty issues, especially for Europe, are priority. For us, in France, they are priority. And for us, all of us, it's not only a matter of how we do use those apps and services on a daily basis. It's more about how to deal, to understand, to master, and to control them. If I had to sum it up, the tech question is about how our democracy is being disrupted and how to fix it. Completely, fully, and totally. We are upside down with this feeling of sometimes being overwhelmed by these new hyperspeed and symbiotic technologies. And AI, in this game, is probably the most valuable proxy to understand these new powers. To get straight to the point, I want to say something that can maybe shock you. But AI is nothing. It relates to nothing specific. AI does not mean anything concrete. Actually, AI as a concept is an empty shell, pretty weak to build a bold analysis of the world. What I mean is we have to talk and we have to say AIs, systems of AI, because they are various, multiple, different. So what is AI? In the past 2 years, we've been having, I think, in my opinion, but maybe we can discuss it later on, the wrong debate, because we have been asking the wrong question. So let's break down the problem properly. AI is not only a technology with processes, but a comprehensive field of research and a scientific domain. And it began to emerge 80 years ago. There's nothing new in AI. The field was led by scientists such as Alan Turing, and I'm sure you've heard about his lifetime complex question. Can a machine simulate biological intelligence? And they developed, the whole community of researchers at that time, they developed two main streams. An operational one, operating systems to solve specific problems. Natasha talked about, automation of tasks, for example, to gain supposedly productivity. But also to better understand the functioning of human intelligence, memory, reasoning, deduction, imagination, perception, feelings. The very concept and the term itself, AI, was coined during the Dartmouth College Conference in '56. And it was attended by key figures such as John McCarthy, Marvin Minsky, Claude Shannon. After that, following the conference, the research will be massively funded by, guess who? DARPA, the Breakthrough Innovation Agency of the Pentagon, because they were interested in some military uses at that time. The problem is, the research at that time is going to be a bit disappointing. And in the 70s, DARPA will slow down fundings. In the 80s and the 80s, will reactivate a new kind of golden age of AI with learning algorithms, machine learning. The climax of that period of time is when the computer Deep Blue defeated Garry Kasparov in chess. It was in May '97, I think. And at that time, we had a huge debate, collective worldwide, about the end of humanity, about the fact that maybe, AI and machines were going to reach, this famous singularity point very soon. And the machines are going to steal our jobs. And gosh, where's our place as humans in front of the machine? 10 years later, AlphaGo, another software developed by DeepMind, defeated Super Go player. Go is a super complex board game. So it defeated Lee Sedol in 2016. And we had a huge debate worldwide about, guess what? The end of humanity, machine going to steal our jobs, etc., etc. Some years later, OpenAI launched ChatGPT. And we're having what? A huge worldwide debate about what? The end of humanity. Maybe, AI going to reach this famous singularity point with super intelligences, super militias going to destroy humanity and steal our jobs. Every 10 years or so, we live this apocalyptic fear sequence. And I'm insisting on it just for you to put things into perspective. At the turn of our century, in the 2000s, we got Web 2.0, big data, and new computing powers. And they allowed us to explore unprecedented amounts of data. This is what we call deep learning. Thanks to those nonlinear, progressive evolution and roller coasters with ups and downs, you are using today ChatGPT, Gemini, and many other tools. AIs as a tool, as a system, as an industry, leverage on four things, basically. A huge amount of data to do what? To train the models, so you need models, for example, large language model. You need cloud resources with, of course, supercomputers, and those supercomputers need microchips to train the model and to deploy the systems. This is basically the value chain of AI, and there's no magic in it. It's an industry with costs and benefits, as simple as that, for the moment at least. So always ask yourself what type of AI system you are talking about. Are we talking about military AIs on the battlefield? Are we talking about smart home technologies? Are you talking about facial recognition or any other biometric solution? Are you talking about simple, very simple AIs to moderate or recommend, some contents on search engines or social media? Are we talking about robotics? Are we talking about generative AIs and so on? Each type of AI systems raises specific legal, political, and ethical issues. Here's for the general overview. And beyond all the fantasies you can hear and read here and there, you're gonna, of course, have all the narrative about rogue and malicious superintelligences, but just have in mind that the AI revolution, or so-called revolution, has already occurred. It's a global, ongoing process with leaps, downs, and surprises. It's already here, and our world hasn't collapsed at all. Just look around you and see, we are here, sit all together, happy, at Amphitheatre Boutmy, celebrating your Parisian back-to-school season. And meanwhile, we still have AI, and AI is developing. So AI is not a perspective. It's a firmly rooted reality. AI operating systems fuel our major systems. It's equivalent to what electricity was in its time. Universally used, invasive, everywhere, unavoidable, defining new production, consumption, information, education, and democratic processes. But most of all, AI and AIs are tools of soft and hard power, of political influence. A highly sensitive tool for creating and spreading knowledge and information as well. From this point of view, the most important thing, according to me at least, is not the what. We've just defined it. It's the who. Who is behind the systems? Who is responsible for them? Who governs them? And who governs the few people who are governing AI systems? As the American political scientist Ian Bremmer used to say, and he's right, who governs? Of course, tech giants are at the front line of this new power battle, but not only them. It leads us to another fascinating question. Who will dominate the world in the 21st century? We might have thought that it would be a single despot augmented by his technological creators. But what is emerging instead is a complex galaxy of private actors and states operating to serve their own agenda. We won't have one actor, but many actors in a permanent competition. They are coexisting in an atmosphere of maximum conflict. So the real question AI raises is not related to those science fiction, apocalyptic narratives spread by some, few madmen from the Silicon Valley. But it's more related to real politics, to power politics, to very pragmatic tech policies about work and education and the responsibility of politicians. And of course, geopolitics. Actually, AI is all about power. That's why the who is more strategic than the what. So to answer to my who question, we should grasp the reality of AI on the ground. AI feeds the leadership competition between the US and China, redefining a new form of tech Cold War. This battle is being played on three main fronts. The first one is the geopolitical front. In short, the stake here is global leadership. At the heart of the AI battle, there's the chip war. The US tried to apply their containment strategy. They aim, and they are pretty at ease with this, aim to block China AI development, as China is a very effective competitor. But it's not just the US. There's a global supply chain, mostly a Western supply chain, that stretches from Netherlands to Taiwan, Japan, and Korea. In the short term, all the restrictions, decided by the US can be a success, but many question marks remains open on a long run, as restrictions are triggers also for China to be more autonomous, develop its own capabilities, and also sometimes retaliates. The US tried to find the right posture in interdependent global economy, and this is a significant difference compared to the Cold War era. And let's be honest, it's not an easy task to settle hostile measures when your economies are deeply interconnected. With cherry on the cake, the super delicate issue of the status of Taiwan, where most of the high-end microchips are made. Taiwan is caught in the center of the chip battle. So you see, tech geopolitics and AI geopolitics is not an easy task for presidents. On the military front, what is at stake with AI is, of course, their military purposes. The race for AI is about leadership, of course, but also national security. AI is transforming military affairs through new cyber hybrid conflicts, disinformation, warfare, information warfare, propaganda through industrialized AI-generated content, such as deepfakes, for example. We are heading towards an unprecedented massification of fake news, and all modalities will be used, and they are used: text, images, videos, sounds. And the costs to produce them are pretty cheap, they're pretty low. So you can find, for example, on the dark web, a huge market of the fake and the deepfakes. And it's pretty cheap. Of course, we have also the massive AI-driven cyber attacks, with the question of how our cyber defense could adapt. What I want to say and to highlight here is that AI do not create new threats. AI makes them change scale. AI can also automate the war itself. Big data is transforming battlefields. What the big boss of Palantir called it this way, the algorithmic war, is raising many ethical questions when it comes, for example, to the use of laws, autonomous weapons. The war in Ukraine and in Gaza gave us a glimpse into the war of the future. From an ideological perspective, AI systems are holding by design norms, values, biases, ideological choices. Tech power politics involves controlling technology markets, which means controlling the standards and consequently controlling the norms. Whoever has the technology controls its political intention. The US-China tech battle can also be read in this specific light. The ideological confrontation is harsh among nations, but also between tech companies. So here's another question. The kind of question, I adore. Will the world fragment due to AI? It's still too early to answer, but there's no doubt that there are two different approaches of AI and technology. A very American one and a very Chinese one. regarding the underlying systems, cloud, computer, or computing powers, there won't be many opportunities for interconnection. This race for leadership is related to financial capital available, of energy resources available, and at the end of the day, how many chips and computing capacities does a country possess? In this regard, China and the US have a significant advantage. But other groups of countries are also trying to be part of the game. I think of some BRICS countries like India, Saudi Arabia, and the Emirates. So, can we avoid a scenario where America and China cut the world in two? We don't know. Our risk here is that, indeed, AI can be another divisive issue between the global north and south. In a perfect world, code should not be law, as Lawrence Lessig phrased it 20 years ago. But the problem is, the law and global governance should replace the multiple fragmented ethical discourses. But the voices of international regulation, they are noisy, lacking some consistency at a global level. And tech giants are playing their part. They're also lobbying not to be regulated or just being regulated as they want to be. In Europe, for example, we have many norms, many laws. But the question of the efficiency of law is still open. Alongside nation-states competition, the ideological battle is also fierce between American tech giants themselves. You certainly have heard of the woke versus anti-woke cultural, let's say, battle in the Silicon Valley this past year between Musk and Altman, between ChatGPT versus Grok. Yes? Between the woke AI versus based AIs. If I may use, the Gramsci reading grid, of the battle. You also probably have heard about the scandal of Gemini, the Google tool, recently, some months ago. And all these debates and discussions highlight this key principle you should always keep in mind. Tech is not neutral. It holds, conveys, translates, biases, filters, ethical and moral. At a second level, there's another fight over, the transhumanist and long-termist visions that are very established in the tech designers and data scientists community in the Valley. Have you heard about the X-risk? X-risk? No? The so-called X-risk means existential risk for humanity, basically, is this hypothesis that significant progress in AGI, general artificial intelligence, could lead to human extinction or cause a global catastrophe. Their reasoning goes as follows. If AIs were to surpass humanity in general intelligence and become super intelligent, and by the way, we don't say anymore AI, but we talk about, super intelligences, it could become difficult to control them. The plausibility of the scenario is widely debated, depending on whether AGI, or superintelligence, is achievable, and how quickly dangerous capabilities and behaviors could emerge. Actually, nobody knows. But it's fancy, it's funny, to talk about it. This way of thinking among technologists is pretty weak, as they develop a very limited thought on humanity and its evolution. Humanity means us. The race for AI often lacks a deep philosophical reflection, focusing instead on the pursuit of power and egos, where this vision of the world, of technology, where humans, again, us, we are considered as simple data providers, producers, as raw material, and we are reified to make them create value and money. Transhumanism, long-termism, and so on, are weak ideologies used to justify binary visions derived from science fiction novels. But the result is pretty simple, pretty clear. Fear, our fear, and sometimes, nourished and developed by the media, and hype, because AI is so cool, right? And both emotions support the mad rush for AI, raising funds from major Silicon Valley VCs, until maybe, the AI bubble bursts. It's funny because it's like they all, Sam Altman, Elon Musk, and all the group, it's like they misunderstood the Ubermensch, the Overman or the Superman of Nietzsche. And even Darwin, they, I think, haven't got a thing of his theory, the poor man. For example, when Altman preaches for a co-evolution of humans with machines, the word evolution is not neutral. Many times in the past 2 years, Sam Altman, for example, shared with us his will to make us move beyond the capitalistic system, claiming everywhere he is already planning a post-capitalist world with a new social contract, deciding for us with no debate, no vote, no legitimacy, no asking us. So, where do we stand today in history? Here we are. We stand here in this hybrid new world at the intersection between ideological and business models. Here lies the essence of the problem. We've got quasi-monopolistic hybrid entities, which are, in the same time, political and economic actors. They act as designers and owners of the tech foundation of our society, with no true accountability, even if we have the law to damage control. So again, who governs them? Here's our dilemma. While AI technology is applauded for its contribution to economic growth and solving some complex global challenges, such as climate change, for example, or predicting disease and natural disasters, it has also become a threat to freedom and democracy, with concerns over privacy and data security. Because AI is a systemic double-use technology. So regarding the upcoming controversies we'll have, the first risk is democratic. We are weaponizing our democracies through biases, discrimination, errors. Never take the result of an AI for granted, never. Massive disinformation. And some deepfakes are now so convincing that even experts struggle to make the difference between reality and AI-generated contents. The risk here is that if anything could be fake, then anything could be deniable. How can we deal with the post-truth politics? It's going to be very complex. We also have all the national security risks, AI-driven cyber attacks, foreign interference. The governance risk, Tech giants are operating as public utilities, but they are private companies. Climate risk. AI industry is a significant driver of electricity demand growth in many regions. Computing power needed for sustaining AI's growth is doubling roughly every 3 months. The increasing energy demand, primarily actually from building and running data centers, used to train and operate AI models, they are contributing largely to the global greenhouse gas emissions. While in the same time, AI tools promise to help us, or to help the energy transition. On the other hand, AI as a tool can also help us fight climate change, inequalities, better access to education, improve productivity if well used, better food, health, disease diagnosis. Actually, AI can be virtuous if we solve 3 political equations. The right balance of use given the side effects and the scarcity of resources. The right goal. AI, okay, but what for? What for? Why are you using ChatGPT? Why? The right governance. Taking back control over tech giants in order not to lose control at all. Our struggles are not about technique, but about politics. What is our common political agenda? What should be the role of companies as political institutions in their own right in this global shift when it comes to frugality, equality, ethics, sovereignty? Our upcoming challenges will be to find the sweet spot between challenges and opportunities. For now, tech power is between some few hands, but it's not the end of the story. Red lines can move, will move, should move to benefit all of us within a nation, but also between nations. And you are an AI native generation. So I'm sure your generation will move those lines. Climate change, technology, and civil rights are actually a single battle. To face those deep learning machines, we should, I think, oppose the deep thinking of humans. Deep learning, deep thinking. We should remain masters of our destiny and not enjoy, because it's easy, not enjoy being slaves to technology. We should do better with it and not against it. We have to demystify the narratives around AI, what we tried to do this evening. Take it for what it is, a tool, a not perfect tool at all. And a tool for what? Power, growth, knowledge, progress, justice, or the opposite? It's in our hands. A French philosopher I adore, his name is Paul Virilio, once said, "I believe that progress is ahead of us if, but only if, we overcome its propaganda. Stay calm always and measured, and be yourself complex and hybrid." To face the hybrid complex nature of those hyper-speed technologies, we, I think, must be hybrid. It's okay if you are following a path that others don't understand. Those, strange ways that don't fit conventional standards, or if you don't follow traditional routes, not respecting all the code in the matrix. It's okay. This is what I did, and this is precisely what will enable you to think out of the box and face the unpredictable. Because our future is maybe the biggest black box ever, even before and more than algorithms. It's actually pretty simple. Hybrid skills for a hybrid world. And I can assure you that there's no shame or fear to be different. Some old school employers, older generations, rigid researchers, or simply those who are jealous of your freedom of mind, they will try to make you doubt. But believe me, the more hybrid and unconventional you are, the richer you will be. Speaking from my personal experience, I myself have built a kind of hybrid career, working back and forth between different worlds, had multiple lives, several careers, many countries, coming from abroad, no social or economic resources, but with my freedom of mind and the strong desire to build my life in my own way, without any model to follow, from scratch. Nothing has brought me more joy than constantly reinventing myself with multiple identities, discovering new fields, new people, new topics, mixing disciplines, and broadening my knowledge. I had and I have a single obsession: never stay a stranger to the world I live in, but on the contrary, always try to be part of it. And I can assure you that as long as you are passionate and dedicated to what you do, to what you believe in, you will always find your place, because you will have a lot of talent doing what you love to do. As I mentioned, I started here as a simple teacher 7 years ago, and no one, really no one, even me, could have guessed that at that time, that one day I would be discussing the political and geopolitical implications of AI as a political scientist and as a writer this evening. It has been possible because some people, and I want to thank here Natasha, Eva, Florent, some people trusted in me, reached out to me when I was really nothing more than an unfulfilled promise. You will not need many people around you. You will need the right people around you, the good ones, those who are able to measure and understand with kindness your potential and bet on you. And if I may, I'm going to briefly switch to French just to share with you some simple, very simple words of René Char. And he said, impose ta chance, serre ton bonheur, va vers ton risque. À te regarder, ils s'habitueront. Always believe in yourself, because everything is possible as long as you remain curious, passionate, and free. And you are very lucky, as today you are joining a remarkable institution that will open many doors in the future for you. But most of all, Sciences Po will open first your mind. Complexity, curiosity, open-mindedness, freedom from any dogma, any doxa, will be crucial in the uncertain future that is coming at us. So get ready. Don't give up a single inch of ground, of knowledge, of courage, of joy, and of freedom. Because we will need you in the next 5 years, and we need you prepared. We need you to help us fix things, reimagine things, make things better. We are waiting for you to build together, this new century that is coming our way, that will be hybrid, but will be strong altogether. So, guys and girls, dear students, dream big, work very, very hard, and welcome on board. Thank you.
Thank you so much for the students, for the message you convey. You are now, the floor is yours now for questions you may have. There are 2 microphones on the way.
I sit down?
As you wish. It's perhaps, then you can drink a little bit of water. Yeah. If you could, when you get to the mic, just say your name and in which master you're enrolled. I would have many questions myself, but let's, and Asma is willing to answer questions on AI, on her thoughts, her book, but also more personal questions.
Okay, thank you. Good evening. My name is Di Koko, and I'm a year 1 master student in FinStrat program. And first of all, thank you for talking to us this evening and spending time with us and on this important topic. And I have 2 questions, and I would like to play the devil's advocate with these questions regarding what you've talked to us about on geopolitics and coevolution. And I'll start with coevolution that you've spoken about. And from my understanding, how it's brought about by the discussions of Sam Altman, Elon Musk, and the group, you kind of you are against how they describe it. But in my own understanding, of which I will kind of refer to, drawing from Dan Brown, the sci-fi writer of coevolution, of which we are already living with. We have some human beings already having brain transplants, brain implant chips and all that. We have people already living with AI. If you come to this room, if you look at this room, half of people will be taking notes on their phones. Half of people take notes on their phones. We exist with technology. And that is the understanding I have of the coevolution that we are having with the tech. So in your discussion, you just talked about coevolution. So which part of this do you not agree with as they discuss? Or do you have another understanding that we might have? Second, I'll make it quick, is on geopolitics. You talk about US and China, but you're in Europe. So why is Europe in this discussion? Europe is only having laws every time to, protect its citizens against developments in other places. So when does it give the opportunity to its own industries to stand at the same level with China and the US? And as you've said, it's like our electricity, it's the innovation. So why is Europe staying behind in the dark as others are enjoying their own light? Thanks.
Thank you. Regarding the first question about coevolution, you can understand it in 2 ways. First one is how we can use AI and tools, on a daily basis at work, at school, at uni, to work, to gain time, etc. And from that perspective, it's okay. I mean, we are already doing it, and that's what I said. Actually, the AI revolution has already occurred. I mean, so no, in the sense of Sam Altman, in this ideological, perspective of some tech gurus, I would say, no, his idea is more about creating money, creating economic value with, some few elites and AI, and all of us, we are going to be useless. And then, in exchange of our uselessness, and just to guarantee, kind of social peace, they will maybe, I'm not kidding, it's one of the conference at the MIT, I think it's an MIT conference of Sam Altman some months ago, and his idea was to give us, a kind of universal income, just to give us, some things to live, to make a living without working, and meanwhile, he is going to create value. And it's not okay. It's absolutely not okay that one tech guru who is not even, profitable. I mean, I'm still waiting, the return on investment of ChatGPT, sorry, but I mean, it costs a lot with no really benefits for the moment, because it costs really a lot in investments. So for the moment, I am not at ease at all when you have some guys with, very specific and sometimes dangerous vision of the world and vision of humanity, and derived from SF, from science fiction, trying to conduct, to impose the future, but without any debate. I mean, no one talks about it in the media, for example. We don't talk about it. So, we have a problem here. And the problem is, this is why I said that Altman, but also Musk, and all this kind of, long-termists and thinkers of the valley, let's say thinkers, with many, but they misunderstood Darwin. It was not about a battle between humans. It's not about, putting, chips in your brain in case, we're gonna have super intelligence going to destroy us and then to augment humanity. I mean, it's crazy. And by the way, it's the basis of inequality, because to have access to those services, to those chips, to those implants, you're gonna pay. So what do you do with the poor, with the fragile? And regarding the second question, the place of Europe, I have a little to say. Why? Because, yes, we have a very huge, a very big problem of sovereignty. So, and because it's absolutely not a new problem. Actually, we are just paying something like 40 years of total absence of political vision and direction in terms of industry, political industry, tech policy. We haven't built, the right ecosystems at the right time. So we just, lost many opportunities this way. Because politics in Europe has been built on guaranteeing, the peace. But actually, the power politics of the US, the power politics of China, but even Russia, India, Turkey, it's about power. It's about, competition, not Europe. Because at the end of the World War II, we were just obsessed by peace. So we had a problem in terms of even ideology of the power politics. So we are now paying this. Lines are moving. So in terms of sovereignty, we had developed all the laws and norms just to guarantee that within our borders, our values are respected. But let's say proactively, in terms of industry, we are still fragile. It does not mean that we have nothing, that we do nothing. We've started doing a lot, but it's not enough.
On this topic, and I say that so that you have time to get, if someone could bring the microphone to the gentleman, you can speak loud. We were discussing this question with Professor Fana here, a former central banker, and to the orders of magnitude of investment into AI in China, US, Europe is, if I don't mistake, 300 billion, 100 billion, 20 billion for the EU as a whole.
But I mean, it's
So the scales, this gives you an idea of the scales today, but what it means for the short-term future. Yes, please.
I'm Samuel, a student in Masters in Finance and Strategy this year. So my question is, you mentioned 3 political equations that will allow us to use AI as a tool for good. The third one being the right governments taking back control over AI. And also
over tech giants.
Over what? Oh, tech giants. Okay, but the tech giants who control AI. So it's kind of roughly the same, I'm guessing. And so you also told us that, it's in our hands to use AI, I'm guessing, for good. And so as you mentioned Nietzsche, you know where my question is going. As moral codes around the world are various, the Western one being considered today superior, between quotes, of course, not always. What to you defines the right government with the right moral code that will allow us to use...
The what?
The right government with the right moral code
Yeah.
that would allow us to use AI for good, and what is good in this context?
Yeah. I have one, maybe one solution. I can give you, 10 proposals, but it's going to be super useless. If you have to keep in mind one thing, is the status of tech giants. Today, they are private companies, but they are not private companies. They are public spheres. They are military and geopolitical actors. Starlink in Ukraine, Starlink in Gaza, Starlink in Iran, etc. They are ideological actors. I say they, but then we can maybe make differences between them. But let's take it, as a global system for the moment. They are ideological actors. Elon Musk recently, but also Mark Zuckerberg yesterday. Okay, so they are absolutely not just an industry. They are not just, economic actors with business models. They are hybrid. And they are operating as common carriers. So if they are acting as public utilities and as common carriers, then we have to give them the status of common carrier. As simple as that. And then we can redefine the accountability of them. So the problem is, the root of the problem. The law here in Europe, for example, is just making damage control after the problem. It was necessary, but if we want to be bold in the analysis, we have to just tackle the root of the problem, and the root is what they are, the status of what they are. Tech giants. Because they are operating AIs, they are operating social media, they are operating submarine cables, satellites, implants. I mean, they are, the tech foundation of the society.
Thank you. Gentlemen, and then...
Good evening.
Good evening.
I'm Gio Quevedo from the FinStrat program too. And my question is kind of related to that of my classmate, apparently, because I'm thinking about the regulatory, or let's say the regulatory track record of the US when it comes to social media and big tech giants. How much do you think we can trust the US to regulate, to correctly regulate the AI companies like, what was the name, the one headed by Sam Altman and all the other competitors that are coming now to the space? And then we also have, like you said, that you show some skepticism that I share also about Elon Musk, especially after the acquisition of Twitter and the rebranding to X. And that I'm not very sure I could trust him. Neither am I sure whether he is actually competent enough to understand and correctly, let's say, lead the industry. I also don't share at all the, let's say, the apocalyptic view he has of the sphere, and I actually quite appreciated the positive note you ended up on your speech, let's say. Thank you.
So the question is, what I think of
how
the
do you
US...
think? Do you think we can trust? Do you think we can trust the US to regulate the AI sphere, given their track record with social media giants?
Yeah. So it's a very, very big question. So we're gonna just, break it down. Regarding social media, it's a specific, issue. A very burning, hot issue these days, because we have all the disinformation, propaganda, Trump coming back, etc. So, regarding the social media subject, we have, that's pretty clear, a super great tension between the US administration and social media. That's clear. But the problem in the US that we don't have in Europe is the constitution of the US. You have something called the First Amendment, freedom of speech. So you can't do almost nothing in the US. So the access point we find in the US is, through the FTC with, the antitrust. So sometimes we can, tackle them and try to maybe control them through the antitrust laws and actions. Yeah. Against Google, it was pretty efficient. Yeah. The problem is that Laina Khan, the boss of the FTC, said last year, I think, that she also, her in the US, had a very big problem, of resources. You have many cases, to instruct, and just she has no enough people to do so. So they have the same problem than in Europe, actually. So yeah, we have the antitrust thing in the US, and it started and it accelerated really under the Biden administration. But regarding social media, we have the problem of the First Amendment, plus what we call the Section 230, that protects social media from, any responsibility regarding the contents. Yeah. So you have these two, blocking points, let's say. In Europe, we have the Digital Service Act, okay? And it can be a bit more efficient. And these days, the French, justice, let's say, just arrested, Pavel Durov. So it means that anyway, the law is beyond, and above tech giants. So it can be somehow a good news. Regarding AI, the governance, it's a different issue, different subject, actually. The US are not regulating it, super hardly. It's more about soft law and discussions with their tech giants because of the competition with China. If you regulate them too much, then you're just going to, make their innovation, their acting as tool of power, less powerful. So you have this, balance between power politics and national security and privacy and the freedom of citizens, in this, let's say, super complex political equation. So the Biden and Kamala Harris actually took the issue. Yeah, they launched and they published lots of guidelines, and at the end, it's gonna be, the government agencies and federal agencies will be in charge of their own guidelines.
So you have, thank you. We have this gentleman and then you. If maybe someone can bring the microphone down the aisle. That's it. Yeah.
Thanks. So my question is pretty related to the last two questions. So about polarization, you talk about like Zuckerberg on one side, Musk on the other side, and it's also relating to the how to say to control and to regulate this. So don't you think that in some way the political polarization that like was brought in this field is a threat? It can prevent in some ways the regulation, because people are going to oppose some regulation. If you think about the example of the devastation, like yesterday, some people are going to say it's a very good thing because it's political opponents, is allowed something like far right and so on. And they also, on the other side, is going to say, yeah, but it's freedom of speech and so on. So don't you think that the more you have polarization in this field, the more it prevents its regulation, because every time the regulation is applied on someone from the left, the right is going to say, oh, it's a good thing. And when the regulation is going to be applied on some like actor which is associated with the other part. So in a way, the polarization is threat. If it wasn't as polarized, maybe people would agree more with some regulation. That's what I mean.
That's a super smart question, but my answer is going to be very simple. No. I don't think that polarization and regulation are actually linked. When you are a regulator, when you regulate something, you regulate an industry, a field, a value chain, actors, with, you know, this always balance between costs and benefits. We are not directly regulating what you think, because in democracy, we have something super precious: freedom of mind, freedom of speech, freedom of thinking what you want to think. So, no, I don't think those two concepts are in tension. But what is very interesting in your question is that we used to say, and I think it's a bit easy, it's too easy. We used to say that, you know, social media have polarized all the debates in Western democracies here, in this side of the world. But I don't think so. Maybe I can shock you, but I don't think so. I think that the first who polarizes, you know, the public debate, actually, what I want to say is that, I restart, it's a continuum. It's a continuum between social media, TV, radio, and press, the media, the traditional media, but also politicians, but also opinion leaders. And it's systemic. It's not only, you know, Facebook and X, Twitter, you know, just emerge and wow, we just polarized our society. Actually, it was very older, and it's a sign of something else, of our, let's say, democratic malaise. It's more about our political project, our vision of society, of our desire to continue and to go on living all together or not. But it's too easy to say it's the social media.
Thank you. Please, gentlemen, any other question afterwards? Right, okay. Please don't forget to say your name and your master, please.
Yes, yes. Ismail, Master Law and Finance.
Where? Yeah, sorry.
Here, I'm right here, yes. How do you, it's different from the previous question and actually from the lesson, but how do you personally and geopolitically interpret the recent arrest of Pavel Durov, Telegram's CEO, especially when you keep in mind the fact that French citizenship was given to him like 1 or 2 years ago? Thanks.
The French citizenship of Durov has nothing to do with his arrest. I mean, he could be just Russian or American, he would have been arrested. In France, it's just, you know, you have all these things they are reproached to Durov and explaining why he has been arrested. The president said it's not political. Of course it is political, because he is Russian, because, you know, he's the owner of one of the major, maybe, platform in the world, because Ukraine and Russia are using them for the war to organize, you know, military actions, both sides. So, of course, it's political. But it raises a crucial question about, you know, the privacy of our messages and, you know, the willing, you know, sometimes, not always, but sometimes, of the political power to get access to our communications. So yeah, we still have, you know, in tension this question of power between privacy, intimacy, and political power. And this is what I can say for the moment. But what is also true is that there is a lot of mystery around, you know, the Durov itself, you know, what he's really playing or not, etc. So yeah, of course it's political. It's maybe geopolitical, actually, because he's also, you know, from the Emirates. I think he also has the Dubai citizenship. He's Russian, he's French, and there's the question of, is, you know, a tech entrepreneur can be responsible we still have the question of the responsibility and the status of, the tech entrepreneurs and tech giants. But is he responsible of what is going on his platform, even if he's not an actor of those, or a part of those contents? So yeah, it's very important what's going. The sequence is very important in terms of freedom of speech, the line between the political power to access to communication, and yeah, the status of those people. Because today is Durov, but tomorrow it can be Musk, or Zuckerberg, or Pichai, or anyone else.
It would be bold. So the gentleman and then Mademoiselle over there. Yeah.
Hello, good evening.
Good evening.
I'm Pablo. I will study here finance and management, and I wanted to return to geopolitics. You mentioned that now microchips and semiconductors in Taiwan are going to have a key importance in geopolitics. On one hand, you mentioned how this fight over scarce resources will make conflict rise, but you also mentioned this is leading to interconnected economies, and China and Taiwan are each other's top 5 trade partners, and despite the US containment you mentioned, in fact, the largest Taiwanese export to China are microchips. So if you had to opt for one of the options, in conclusion, whether this rise of these new strategic resources and trade dynamics, will AI push more for peace in the region, or will AI push more for conflict there?
For the moment, the answer is conflict. But it's a global, it's a global issue. I mean, Taiwan is not only the problem of the microchip battle, it's also, the China Sea and the let's say, the presence and the leadership of the US in the region and in the world. So actually, China is trying to settle a new world order, actually. And of course, the US are trying to just maintain their position. So the question, is AI going to foster war or peace? I'm going to have a very coward answer. AI is just the tool for one option or the other. Who mastered the political intention is us, or more precisely, presidents. If tomorrow Trump is elected, we're going to have, a specific path. But if Kamala Harris is elected, we're going to have another issue, another, outcome. So I can't tell you what is the future, because it is unpredictable. But it depends on humans. It depends on our politics. It depends on our will to elect a certain vision of the world or another. But never forget that AI holds, of course, political intention, but at the end, the whole value chain is about humans, technologists, data scientists, the workers just trying to moderate the systems, presidents, political systems, us users. We are all humans on the value chain. I mean, it's a narrative, it's a fiction to say that AI is just magic machines, right?
Thank you.
It's an interesting question that relates to economic theories, actually. I don't know if some of you have heard of the Lucas critique.
No.
Anyone?
Tell us.
Bob Lucas. I think he got the Nobel Prize, no? Yeah.
Bob Lucas?
Bob Lucas. He was saying basically that when you study an economic equation, a structural equation that links GDP to inflation, then the parameters of those equations, it's easier if we think they are static. They are just givens. But in reality, those parameters, they move endogenously with other factors that may be variables in the equation, or maybe other variables that themselves depend on the variables in the equation. So this is a very, very deep thing, but that's basically what you're saying. You're saying AI has this structural relationship that has its logic, which is sort of self-sustained, but the inputs behind the parameters of AI may be responding to factors that are themselves affected by AI, hence this circularity and hence this endogeneity of parameters. And this is explaining why there are various paths, sometimes to the same steady state, but sometimes to that, some theories came afterwards, different steady states. I stop here because there's another question.
Very interesting. But maybe there's a common word, it's chaos. The common point, maybe. Right?
So, yeah, maybe that comes even later. But Mademoiselle, you have the mic.
Hi, I'm Alice, doing the Masters in International Business and Sustainability. So I just wanted to focus on what you said about the deepfake and fake news and how good they are becoming and affecting media and ultimately democracy. It kind of depicts a future world where mistrust towards technology and AI is growing, and perhaps only face-to-face can be trusted. I was wondering, where do you think AI will stand and technology as a whole prevail in a potential environment of that mistrust, especially in terms of democracy?
Again, regarding disinformation, deepfakes, false contents, AI is a tool. And in this tool, you can put, your intention. So it can be, used to produce massive false contents, to disturb democracies, to disturb your opponent, to make propaganda, to destroy your, a colleague or a super friend, or just make some revenge on an ex-boyfriend or an ex-girlfriend. So you can really use it for, let's say, malicious purposes, or in the same time, the same AI can be also a part, let's say, of the answer in terms of cyber defense to detect, the deepfakes. Because nowadays, what we are we started witnessing that, just with our biological eyes, we can't make the difference now between, super sophisticated deepfakes and reality. It's going to be harder and harder. So we need, in the same time, in front of them, another tool to help us identify what is true and false. But the problem, beyond the technological question, is actually it's Hannah Arendt who said that. If you have a doubt on something, if you don't believe in anything anymore, if you just suspect anything to be false, not to be true, to be manipulation, then we can't be society anymore. We can't. Because all the social contract, the democratic contract, the baseline of democracy is trust in terms of contracts, in terms of my word, in terms of knowledge, in terms of science. So if everything collapses, yeah, we have a huge problem. And deepfakes is just, or disinformation, for me, it's just a proxy to understand this. So we have to stay really, really careful to what makes society, what is common, values, projects, agenda, I don't know, desire to stay together, to live together in a single nation state. But it relates to the question of, polarized media and polarized opinions. You have two layers: disinformation with malicious intentions, let's say, industrialized by AI. But AI, again, is not creating the problem. It makes it just change scale. I don't know if I answered the question.
Thank you.
A question over there, gentleman, and then Mademoiselle tout au fond afterwards. Yeah.
Hi.
Ce que vous voulez. Hi. No.
I'm in Ukraine. I just started my master's
That's two good questions. Regarding the first one, I don't think that distrust is a good starting point for research, but doubt is. It's not the same thing. It's not to be, you know, in an aggressive way, not because you said it, so you're wrong. No, it's just, you know, the methodological.
That's right. Yeah.
I'm gonna do it. Methodological doubt. So yeah, of course, doubt is the good starting point, but with the right questions. Always, you know, break down your problem and phrase it the more precisely you can, the question you're gonna answer. And also, it's of course the doubt, but also, you know, the ability we are going to lose, we are losing to think against yourself, not necessarily against the others. Thinking against, you know, others is too easy. I'm right, they're wrong. Super easy. No, but against yourself. Yeah, good starting point. It's actually, it's even, and maybe making research, it's kind of resistance to our times, actually. It's kind of, you know, a way to stand up and keep up the fight. Bob Marley. Regarding the second question, I forgot the second question. It was about how to struggle yourself, us, in this super complex technological world and uses and apps and distrust and a lot of information. I think personally, I'm not a fan, you know, of the whole the digital detox thing. I mean, it's pretty useless. The idea is more to be consistent in your sources, in the way you're gonna find the right information, to cross information. And it does not mean that in the evening at home, because you're tired, you're not going to watch, you know, some cat videos. I do it when now I'm completely tired. I can go, you know, Instagram or, I don't know, TikTok and just, you know, watch super, super silly videos. But, you know, you just have to regulate your use and always do things in conscience. It means you know why you are doing this or that use. So, and last thing, the internet, search engines, social media can also be super precious, you know, sources of information. So really it depends on your use and the time you're gonna spend on the apps.
Thank you. One last question then, unless there's a very pressing expression of interest. So last but one, and you get the last one. Mademoiselle, coming all the way to the microphone, please.
Thank you. Okay. Hello. First of all, thank you so much for bringing for such an interesting topic. Andrea, I'm also from IBS master, and I had two smallish questions kind of moving into the economics field. First of all, you mentioned that with each rise of AI, there's been like a fear-mongering of like, it's going to steal our jobs, and you think that that's not really going to be the case. But do you think we're going to have a similar situation to like the previous way where, for example, for translators, it did not delete their jobs, but it did make them more precarious? And second question is, I heard you mention before to the sir in the front row the exorbitant amounts that have been invested into AI. So do you think there's currently a bubble around AI, specifically the one that's like most relevant nowadays to generative AI? And thank you.
The second question is?
Do you think there's a bubble around AI?
Oh, bubble, yeah, the AI bubble, okay. So maybe you can, you know, we can share the answer because it's an economic, you know, point of view. Regarding the jobs, actually, it's what I wanted to highlight earlier is that you always have the same, really the same kind of script sequence, where you have a kind of innovation, any innovation, and you have all this narrative of fear, of the machine going to, yes, steal your jobs. 10 years ago, when it was the deep mind bubble, let's say, we had a report. I don't remember what kind of bank or consulting firms, really I don't remember, but saying that 50% of our jobs were going to disappear in the coming years. I think it was in the 5 or 10 coming years. Actually, we are 10 years later, and we haven't experienced 50% of job loss. We haven't. We just haven't. So actually, we are all the studies, and they are not agree all together, and we actually don't really know. And as Natasha just said, in the introduction speech, regarding even, productivity, it's not very clear. Now we are having, kind of step back. And what we are witnessing is that it's not that productive. It's maybe more balanced. And in terms of, the profitability of the startup themselves, AI costs a lot in terms of cloud resources, in terms of energy resources, in terms of data. We don't have any more data. We have a shortage of data. So we are creating, artificial data just to fuel the algorithms, to train them. So you see that it's really not, we really have to demystify the narratives and the first fears we have about, jobs and productivity, etc. Actually, AI is, again, already here, and the world hasn't collapsed. And another thing, Natasha won't be happy, but in the 80s, when we had, the automation wave in Japan and Germany, we haven't experienced, unemployment. On the contrary, I think. We hadn't, the exact, equality between automation and unemployment. But you're right in the same time, when you say that some jobs are more, target for some tasks, at least, of these generative AIs. That's also true.
Sorry, I guess I formulated my question incorrectly. I didn't mean to ask if you think jobs are going to be reduced. I meant to ask, do you think the quality of the work quality,
the quality
salaries
of the jobs
will go down, or maybe instead, for translators, it's not that they're being paid less to correct the work of AI, but because the work of AI is bad quality, they have to do the work they used to do, but in poorer conditions that they used to, because their employers think that AI did most of the work.
So it's about the quality of the jobs.
Yeah, the situation of the employees.
If we automate, the repetitive tasks, what is really, making us lose time and productivity, and then, just make us focus on, the kind of tasks that, create value, that, of course, you're going to gain expertise. But actually, and what is interesting in your question is that if we are collectively smart enough, the AI tools, such as generative AIs, actually are going to make us become more expert than ever. Because what? Because the AI tools are not perfect. They make a lot of mistakes. There are a lot of biases that you, human, should control at the end. So at the first of the process, you can gain time, but at the end, you have to make the quality control of the output. So at the end, probably, we'll need to be more expert, thanks to AI, maybe. But I can't answer more precisely on the quality of the jobs because, again, jobs, young people, AI does not mean anything. We should just, see sector by sector, industry by industry, all the specific, tasks, jobs, and value created or not. I can't give you a general answer except what I just, gave right now. Maybe you want to add something?
Thank you. No? I think we'll stop. Do you mind if we stop here? We've got a lot tonight on geopolitics, on epistemology,
and economy,
on economy, anthropology. Also a vademecum for you for how to use AI, how to be on apps, but also a case study for those of you who will do the financial analysis course for the valuation of ChatGPT. Is it overvalued or not? Now I think there's a cocktail in the courtyard outside, not in the péniche, because that's not for you, but it's even better with champagne outside. So see you there, and you can see.
Thank you.